This is an Israeli filmmaker who accepted an award for a documentary at the Berlin Film Festival. And this is an Israeli filmmaker who actually spoke out for peace and equality in his home region. Bastard. At the Berlin Film Festival. So here's the speech he gives when accepting his award.
I want to say we are standing in front of you now. Me and Bassel are the same age. I am Israeli, Bassel is Palestinian. And in 2 days, we will go back to a land where we are not equal. I am living under a civilian law, and Bassel is under military law. We live 30 minutes from one another, but I have voting rights, and Bassel is not having voting rights. I'm free to move where I want in this land. Bassel is, like millions of Palestinians, locked in the occupied West Bank. This situation of apartheid between us, this inequality, it has to end.
Wow, so there's an Israeli with a real conscience. You know, Russell said there are no liberal Israelis. I mean, obviously, you never say never. There seems to be one. Says not only do we need peace, but we need equality as well. A lot of the more quote-unquote liberal Israelis don't get to equality. They stop at, well, we need peace. We need a stable status quo.
We need a permanent ceasefire.
Right. They don't actually need to dismantle the apartheid system. Right. This Israeli, much credit to Yuval Abraham, actually goes there, and I'm sure the press really appreciated that. Did they not, Russell?
In Germany.
Yeah.
In Germany, which tried to ban a Roger Waters concert.
Yes. So let's go here.
Israeli filmmaker engulfed in backlash after anti-war speech in Berlin. You know, it's just crazy. I thought this was the kind of thing we like, multiculturalism, right? People all, oh, no, we don't like that, huh? We don't like that.
The Washington Post write-up.
An Israeli filmmaker is facing heavy backlash after he used an acceptance speech at a high-profile Berlin award ceremony to oppose the war in Gaza. Yuval Abraham, whose speech was roundly condemned by German politicians, said he has since received death threats and that his family had fled their home in Israel for safety. Standing beside his Palestinian co-director at the Berlinale Film Festival over the weekend, Abraham, 29, criticized his government's treatment of Palestinians, saying, "In 2 days we will go back to a land where we are not equal. We need to call for a ceasefire." Earlier, the co-director, Basil Adra, had said that it was, quote, "very hard for me to celebrate when there are tens of thousands of my people being slaughtered and massacred," calling upon Germany to end weapon exports to Israel. In response, German politicians criticized the onstage remarks as, quote, one-sided, and blamed the festival's
oh my God.
and blamed the festival's organizers for letting the remarks go unchallenged. Berlin Mayor Kai Wagner tweeted that the remarks were unacceptable and that anti-Semitism has no place in Berlin. This is an Israeli on stage with a Palestinian calling for an end to the slaughter and an end to apartheid and equality. Where is the anti-Semitism?
And you think they'd have seen something like this coming, they wouldn't have been so shocked by this speech, since the film that he won for is a documentary called No Other Land, which is about the brutal tactics of the Israelis against the Palestinian people in the West Bank. So it's about
what
apartheid.
Would you think he would say?
It's about apartheid. What the fuck did you think he was going to say? Excuse me.
No, this is, well, we'll get into it. Yeah. Adding that he expected festival organizers, quote, to ensure that such incidents do not happen again. Yeah. Germany's cultural commissioner, Claudia Roth, said she was working with city officials to review the festival's handling of the incident. Yeah, it doesn't sound scary at all.
We should have given the award to the trans documentary. We don't have a trans documentary we could give the awards to.
I told you we had Dylan Mulvaney would have come and given
your virtue signal to the LGBTQIA plus community. You don't let the anti-apartheid Israeli on the stage.
We had the whole documentary about the Bud Light boycott.
Black Lives Matter. There's nothing from Black Lives Matter didn't submit the films this year.
The whole committee is anti-Semitic. The backlash.
Climate change.
Everybody likes the climate change documentaries. We could have gotten Greta. Greta was going to come. She was getting on her rowboat. The backlash has once again spotlighted modern Germany's hardline approach to criticism of Israel, which has been tested by the increasingly heated atmosphere following Hamas's October 7th attack and Israel's ensuing war. Politicians there regularly say that the nation has a historical responsibility to offer its unflinching support to the Jewish state, calling it a Staatsräson, reason of the state. In a telephone interview Wednesday, Abraham said he had received death threats and hateful messages in response to his speech. Only democracy in the Middle East. As he prepared to board his flight home to Israel, he was contacted by people who threatened to meet him upon arrival at the airport. He has since canceled his flight, saying, "I understood that I can't go back." Abraham and Audra's film titled No Other Land won the Berlinale Documentary Award. In the film, Abraham and Badra document life in a Palestinian village in the occupied West Bank while also examining the way their own relationship as an Israeli and Palestinian of the same age was strained by inequalities.
If this was going to be a problem for you, then why would you give this film the award?
Why would you? Well, okay. It sounds to me like the people who run the film festival wanted to make this statement.
Right.
And then they got government backlash.
Yes.
And now they're trying to make noises because they don't I don't know exactly what powers the German government has to enforce this kind of thing. But it sounds like now they're scared and trying to diffuse the situation.
Right.
It's not like the government officials gave them the award.
Right.
Abraham said the documentary was intended to prompt debate and that he respected those who disagreed with him. But to demonize us, to devalue the term of anti-Semitism like that, Abraham said, how dare German politicians tell an Israeli whose entire family either survived or was murdered in the Holocaust? Abraham, who describes himself as a Jewish descendant of Holocaust survivors, rejected any suggestion that his remarks at the award show were anti-Semitic. Quote, "We stood on the stage together, an Israeli and a Palestinian, calling for equality, calling for ending the war. The branding of these positions as anti-Semitism by German politicians who are not Jewish," he added, "placed me and my Jewish family in danger."
Thank you. Good for him. And then this gets even worse. I mean, it's just absolutely just from outer space.
Israel's ambassador in Berlin, Ron Prosser, accused Germany's cultural institutions of rolling out the red carpet for anti-Israel activists over the weekend. Quote, "Under the guise of freedom of expression and art, anti-Semitic and anti-Israel rhetoric is celebrated," he said in a post on X. In a statement this week, the festival's organizer, Mariette Rissenbeek, said the positions expressed at the award ceremony did not reflect the festival's position.
Fucking coward. What a fucking coward. You gave him the award.
You gave him the award. So
your position, because what he's saying was not unrelated to what the film was about, right?
Well, also, they probably get government funding for this festival. It's not like America where everything is private. These kinds of arts institutions usually get some government money in Europe. We understand the outrage that the statements made by some of the award winners were perceived as too one-sided, and there are always two sides in an apartheid state, and in some cases, they gave too much credibility to the pro-Mandela side in this documentary. We need to hear more from the de Klerk side. And in some cases inappropriate, she said, adding that it would have been more appropriate if award winners and guests offered more differentiated statements on this issue.
Unbelievable. What a fucking coward. You give the guy an award. He goes up there and he articulates the message of the film. It's not like he went up there and pulled something out of his ass. He didn't go up there and say, "We think chorizo is better than bratwurst." It's not like that. Like, you could have definitely anticipated he was going to say something like this. And now you say, well, his positions don't necessarily reflect ours. So then why'd he win the award?
Why'd you give him the award?
Stand up for what you actually believe
Right.
in such
Right.
severe times. No, you backtrack and say, well, no, we wash our hands of it. Just pathetic. Unbelievable.
Well, and it just shows, okay, I think we can all understand why Germany is locked in a kind of pathological mind fuck around all this. Obviously, right?
Sure.
If you deal with German people and you even bring up the Nazis, they turn beet red. You know,
Of
it is
course.
just, even to this day, it is a very hard thing for them to address and deal with and process. So they decided that part of how they're going to pay their penance is to be fanatically pro-Israel and to absolutely, without question, swallow the premise that Zionism and Judaism are synonymous. And so to speak against Zionism is to be anti-Semitic, which will absolutely not be permitted because of their jackboots phase. But they need to grow beyond that, because this is the kind of absurdity that standard creates. The standard should be, never again shall we be complicit in genocide. Never again shall we be complicit in crimes against humanity. Because in your doctrinaire effort to make amends for your horrific historical crimes, you are repeating them.
Right. Exactly. I mean, that's very, very well said. And in the case of this, even all paranoia being what it is about being perceived as anti-Semitic, the filmmaker is an Israeli filmmaker. Like, you are giving voice to different perspectives. What does she say there? If award winners and guests offered more differentiated sentiments, more differentiated statements on this issue, that is a differentiated statement. He's an Israeli articulating a minority position within Israel, a quite noble minority position within Israel. That guy is a much better spokesperson for Israel than 99% of the people in Israel. You should want to elevate that voice. You should want to elevate that voice.
Of course. And this, do you know how many people we get from the Arab world thanking us for showing them that not all Jews believe this?
Right, exactly.
And not all Jews are Zionists.
Right, so there's your opportunity right there. And you took it, and it worked out great, and then you were bullied into backtracking it. And how that became a controversy just shows you how sick the media coverage of this is, and how racist it is, how unbelievably racist it is that a guy goes up there with a Palestinian preaching peace and equality, and that's a problem.
Right.
That's a problem. And
that's
the American media gives validity to the idea that that's controversial and that that's a problem.
Please clap.